What was your best or worst encounter with a celebrity? Story 1. My dad was at a broadcasting conference for work, out of town, with one of his coworkers, and was heading down from his hotel room to the lobby to meet his coworker who was waiting for him. My dad gets on the elevator and notices there are two guys already inside, John Candy and his presumed manager. Candy is talking to his manager, so my dad doesn't say a word. As the elevator touches the ground floor and the doors open, my dad's coworker is standing in the lobby waiting on him. Upon seeing John Candy and my dad at the same time, he gets a shocked look on his face. Before he can offer a word, my dad fibs and says, "Hey man, I was just talking with my buddy John here." To which John Candy immediately joins the conversation, saying, "Yeah, me and old Tim here were just catching up. Haven't seen each other in quite a while." My dad's coworker was in total shock, and Candy smiles and says goodbye before walking off with his manager. Turns out my dad had his name badge on for the conference, and Candy saw it and played along at the drop of a hat. Story 2. I met Leslie Nielsen when I was around 12 on a film set some family members worked on. He had, unknown to everyone at the time, a little fart noise machine in his pocket. Not some stupid little one, but a full-on, several different types and durations, pro fart noise machine. When me and my 4 siblings were around him and a bunch of other adults, he would periodically let the thing rip mid-conversation, and then stay perfectly calm, not leading on. Only then to give little eyebrow raises and other funny faces to us kids, as no one else was looking, putting us in on the joke but leaving the adults all confused/embarrassed. This went on the entire day we were on set, and I could barely keep myself from laughing. Story 3. Tim Armstrong from Rancid. Met him at a bar in Hollywood and Cahuenga around 10 years ago. Dark dive of a bar, sitting there next to this guy for 15 minutes or so, and then I notice a huge spider tattoo on his neck, and finally place the face. I calmly tap on his shoulder and say, "Excuse me, is your name Tim?" Remained so calm because I was preparing myself with my internal monologue of don't turn into a crying little hysterical girl. He smiled and said, "Yeah, why?" I told him about how his albums shaped my childhood of having my older brother give me a copy of Operation Ivy in 1990, and how I still have Let's Go on cassette, and how I'd be honored if I could buy him a beer. He said thank you for being a long-time fan and refused to let me pay for my drinks the rest of the night. Sat there drinking with him for a few hours talking about music, traveling, the direction of punk, and how most teens don't know the roots of where what they are listening to comes from. Such a talented and nice guy. Story 4. I met George Clooney at the airport. I was sitting waiting for my plane in Las Vegas, camera on my lap, notebook in hand playing a people-watching game I do at airports. The terminal was a little crowded, so I was out in the main walkway, with an empty chair next to me. As I was riding, a man asked, "Can I put my suitcase here for a moment?" I looked up into George Clooney's godlike smile and nodded, "Thanks." I sat there, staring open-mouthed as George Clooney opened his suitcase, put some papers in it, and closed it up again. I was starstruck. As an 18-year-old girl at the time who has a bad tendency to collect celebrity crushes, I did indeed love him. I had a Dan Cameron notebook, but was so enraptured by his beauty. I didn't do a damn thing. His tour took about 15 seconds, then he stood up, smiled at me, and walked away. I cried when I realized how stupid I was. I still hate myself to this day for it. Story 5. I got to be part of a group that interviewed gorillas when I was in college. For those who don't know, the singer Damon Albarn was also in Blur. I liked them a lot as well. I was absolute nervous when I saw them. I was in private upstairs room of a bar with a bunch of other skinny tie, cardigan, forearm tattoo, wearing wannabe know-it-alls who were also part of the interview. The interview was kinda stale, but afterward I went outside to smoke, as did Damon and Jamie, the guy who does all that crazy artwork. Jamie noticed what I was smoking, Marlboro 27s, and asked if he could have one. Of course I said okay. We were shooting for about 20 minutes talking about whatever. Even the Spice Girls came up at one point. Damon was part of the convo at this point. It came time to leave, Jamie said. "It's Thursday, you're a university kid. I know you don't have class tomorrow, so you can stay for a beer." I obliged. No crazy drunken part of the story, unfortunately. I drank 2 beers, then actually went home. Side note, Damon Albarn is the photogenic guy. Story 6. I met Michael Cera at a bar in Portland. I had a mutual friend and decided to say what's up. He was really cool and asked about the girls I was there with. I informed him that I had just told the girls that I was friends with him and asked if he could laugh really loud like I was funny. He erupted in laughter while waving to the girls. I offered to buy him a drink, but he had just got one, which was good, 'cause I was broke. I went back to my table like an absolute boss. I credit him with the girl I was that night, such a team player. Story 7. I was a congressional page when I was in high school, and during a lunch break me and a couple of my friends caught sight of Stephen Colbert, walking around the Capitol building after finishing up filming one of his better-known district segments. I walked up to him and asked if we could get a picture with him, and without even hesitating he said, "No problem," and took a picture. At the same time in my English class, I was writing a paper about late-night comedy and the influence it had in the political system, so I decided to take a chance with the perfect opportunity there and asked if he would mind if I interviewed him for it, and sure enough he spent the next 10 minutes answering questions from this random kid. Definitely one of the nicest and most grounded person I'd ever met. Story 8. Hung out with Stephen Colbert and the rest of the Colbert Report crew at a bar after the show. I was there because my boss was the guest star and I was needed along with several others to set up equipment that our company was developing for a demonstration on the show. The crew bought me all of these drinks, so I was plenty intoxicated when Colbert came up to me, thanked me for coming, and asked me some more questions about the machinery that we were demonstrating. He's a really cool guy who loves science and engineering. Story 9. I woke up at 1:15 a.m. one morning to a phone call from the guy I was sort of seeing at the time, Jeremy. The voice on the other end goes, "Is this Micah?" I said, "Yes, it's 1 a.m. Is Jeremy okay?" The man says, "Oh yeah, Jeremy just refused to let me play wingman for him because he was seeing a girl. I just wanted to ask your permission." I asked who he was. Danny Trio. I also once got upset because some guys came into the store I managed as I was about to close. Thankfully, they bought like $100 worth of stuff, or I'd have been a bit angry that I had to close 15 minutes late because of them, as I had somewhere to be. They were polite but not very talkative. One kept staring at my chest and flirting with me. I found out that they were some British band, and I didn't care because I'd never heard of them, which seemed to offend them slightly. Almost a year later, I saw their music video on the TVs at Target, One Direction. Story 10. Adam Sandler was filming a movie by my high school a few years ago. Word got around, and a huge crowd waited around with hopes to meet him and that Napoleon Dynamite guy. They finish rapping, and Napoleon Dynamite guy jumps into a van and gets rushed away without even looking at any of the hundreds of kids waiting to meet him. Adam Sandler walks over to his trailer and waves and walks in, leaving everyone who had been waiting around saddened. His assistant announced to everyone that it was a long day and he needed a few minutes and then would be out for autographs and pictures. He came out about 10 minutes later and met everyone there, including me. It was so awesome since I grew up loving him. Funny to see a newcomer act like a fool and not meet anyone, and a seasoned actor come and meet everyone. Story 11. Not really a celebrity, but definitely someone famous. I'm sad to say the memory is really fuzzy due to my age, but my mother has told me the story. When I was little, about 4, I was flying to Florida with my mom and my infant sister. Airlines were nicer back then, and since my mom had a baby and there were oodles of room in first class, the flight attendants moved us to the front of the cabin so she could better take care of her during the flight. We're settling in nicely when a bunch of guys in suits get on. They had that clear curly wire earpiece that says, "I'm guarding someone important." Then Barbara Bush walks on, pearl necklace and all, and takes a seat across the aisle from us. This was in early 1993, just after George Herbert Walker Bush left office, and Barbara was flying to Florida to do something with Jeb. I assumed she had been told about our move, and neither she nor the Secret Service minded. My mother and her made conversation throughout the flight. I can't recall everything, but my mother tells me she did say the thing she missed most about the presidency was Air Force One. I didn't really understand who she was, but she seemed like a nice lady to me, so I invited her to dinner at our house. To sweeten the proposal, I let her know that since my daddy isn't coming for a few days, we don't have to eat meat. She graciously declined. At one point, I had to go to the bathroom. I wasn't old enough yet to go on my own, especially in an unfamiliar place like a plane, but Mrs. Bush volunteered to look after my sister while my mom accompanied me to do my business. When we came out, Barbara Bush was giving my little sister a bottle. Apparently she had started to cry when my mom left, so Mrs. Bush rummaged through the diaper bag a bit and found a bottle to feed her. Story 12. I was working at a movie theater in NYC. It was the closing shift, and I finally got paired up with the girl of my dreams, a very cute Puerto Rican girl who was starting to warm up to me. Finally, I had my chance of working alone with her that night, It would be just the two of us with lots of downtime. As the night went along, she got extra flirty with me. The final movie was about to start, and only 10 or so people were in the showing. She whispered to me, "Hey, you should come back to my place when we are done." Not 5 minutes later, Quentin Tarantino walks in alone. Now this girl loved Quentin, a huge fan. So he comes over and gets some popcorn, and of course she is gushing over him. She asks if he could sign something for her. They head behind one of those large movie promo stands and are back there for a couple minutes. Then I see them come out, and they both leave the theater. Story 13. Ben Folds was my babysitter before he got really famous. His girlfriend at the time worked with my mother, and that is how my family was introduced to him. This was around the time he was literally just starting out in the music scene in Nashville. Many years later, when I'm off at college, my mom calls me up and says she has someone I should talk to. It was Ben Folds. My mom saw him at a Moe's and walked up to him. He remembered her immediately, and he remembered me as well. Story 14. I used to work as a valet for a really nice hotel in Nashville. One day during the summer, during the same time that Bonnaroo that was going on, a couple of big vans pulled up to pick up a band. So I was lucky enough to open the door for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They were really nice and thankful and said hi and thank you to me. Of course, Flea was running late, and he ran out pulling up his pants and stopped and shook my hand and talked to me for like 5 minutes. I told him I was a huge fan, and he was super nice and chill and asked me about my life. That day will always be in my mind. Story 15. Jack Black. Girlfriend and I were picking up my computer from the repair shop and stopped at a Chipotle in downtown Austin, South Congress location to those that are interested. As we approached the door, like a blaze of glory from the darkened lands, Jack Black appeared and opened the door for a fellow patron. As we passed, I made the comment, "You absolutely rock and roll at the guitar, dude." He said, "Right on," and we went to order food. He was getting swamped in line, and not wanting to pester him for his stardom, my then girlfriend and I went to sit at a table and finish our meal. I'm not 100% sure why, but after he received his burrito, he came and sat at the table next to us. We talked for about 45 minutes about a range of topics, from what it's like to be a celebrity, how he manages all the time away from his family, what most of the hotels are like, what the industry is like, his latest movie, and his past roles. I was sure to tell him Tropic Thunder was hilarious, as well as the scene from The Office, where he played the guy in love with the old lady. We shared many laughs and a beer or two. I told him a few places he should get some breakfast tacos, Torchy's, and we said our goodbyes. He was going to do his nightly swim. The guy likes to keep healthy. Oh, and the girlfriend got the autograph. Story 16. I once met Bill Hader while waiting in line for Saturday Night Live standby tickets with my friends. It was around 1 a.m., and I was casually reading a magazine article about Amy Poehler to distract myself from boredom / the frigid temperature. Suddenly, the people next to me started talking to someone, so I awkwardly turned around to see Bill Hader standing there in all of his glory. He starts walking off, but stops a little ways down the line to take a picture with some people. My friends and I decided that we should ask for a picture too. So we go over and ask for a picture. He's super nice and wishes us luck on getting to see the show. Fast forward to the next night. We get tickets to the dress rehearsal and get in. Hooray! After the show, we waited with the other fans to meet people as they came out of 30 Rock and into their cars to go party or whatever it is they do after the show. So Bill is walking down the line talking to people, and when he sees us, he looks at our wristbands, smiles, and says, "Hey, you guys got in?" It was like he could tell that we were obsessed with Saturday Night Live, and he was genuinely glad that we got to see it. Story 17. I met Dave Matthews with my dad outside of a restaurant / hotel a decent amount of years ago. I was really young and heard this man talking on his phone, so I walked over and waited until he was done talking. I asked, "Are you Dave Matthews?" He smiled and nodded his head. My dad, the biggest Dave fan I know, pretty much fainted. I shook his hand, and we talked for a bit. We took a picture, then his wife and 2 daughters walked over. I don't remember much about them other than his wife being a truly beautiful woman. We thanked him and parted ways. Story 18. Neil Young was on my college campus visiting his daughter for Parents' Weekend. I was drunk and trying to measure the length of the central campus sideway in terms of unrolled toilet paper rolls. Campus security agreed not to write me up if I picked it all up. I did so by wrapping it around my body like a dirty toilet paper mummy. At which point Mr. Young walked by, turned around, and stared at me. That was a good day. Story 19. About 8 years ago, I was in Palm Springs, California at the Bob Hope Celebrity Golf Tournament. There were various celebrities playing with pro golfers throughout the course, and at the end of the course, people could wait for them to walk by and get autographs. One year, Samuel L. Jackson was playing, and we were waiting for him at the last hole. He walked past, and my brother's girlfriend asked for an autograph and held out her program. He asked for a pen, which she realized she didn't have, and he said, "Yet God have the tools." He continued to sign other people's programs, and when my brother's girlfriend finally found a pen, he came back to sign hers and took a picture with us. Pretty cool. Story 20. I met Charles Barkley at a bar in Scottsdale. All the guys I was with were speechless, so I decided to go up to him and show them that he was just another human being. He was at the bar, ordering a drink, so I went up to the bar and stood next to him. He looked at me and asked me if I wanted to buy him a drink. I said, "I'm poor. You should be buying me a drink." And he did. That's a wrap for this video. Make sure to leave your relatable story down in the comments. I would love to make a video on them. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.